your time to shine. Ooh.
Coming up this week on A Captain's Log, father and son stunts, Star Trek, Spaghetti Park, and stories with Charlie and Chuck Picerni. It's a win-win, you're here, so strap in. It's time for A Captain's Log, starting now.
Now the sky's the limit, nobody can stop us to create a story worth retelling to us. Hello, happy, my old friend. I'm glad you've manifested yourself into a human I can depend on to bring me happy.
Sorry, you can blame last week's replicator upgrade that Bryan mentioned last time.
Oh yeah, those engineers are great on this ship Iosasaurus, my goodness. But
They
wait a
are.
minute. Did someone disintegrate my digital twin? Well, what can we do? Okay, welcome back to A Captain's Log. Last week, we interviewed Chuck Picerni Jr., decades of stunt work in Die Hards 1 and 2, and before it, Star Trek's 3 and 4. He's back with us again this week, but before him was his uncle Paul Picerni, a World War II Air Force veteran who worked on, well, world-renowned TV series like The Untouchables. Also, 200 other film and TV credits to his name. Then you have his father, who we have with us here today, Charles Picerni Sr., a director of the T.J. Hooker TV series and many other TV episodes, a writer, like Lily said, of his new film, Spaghetti Park. He's also been a stunt coordinator, stuntman on 64 years worth of Hollywood and abroad in TV and film.
Well, let's not forget about Steve Picerni, Charles Sr.'s son and Chuck's brother.
Yes.
Steve Picerni is a stuntman, stunt actor, stunt coordinator, plus an assistant director who performed stunts in the 1996 film with the Borg cybernetic beings titled Star Trek First Contact. Yes. This is truly one amazing family. We welcome back Chuck Picerni Jr., and this time let's welcome Charles Picerni Sr. to A Captain's Log.
Good to be here. Thank you, Bryan. Appreciate that.
Let's start with you, Charles Sr. You were doing construction in New York and were out in LA with Robert Stack as a stand-in just a few months after Chuck was born. Tell us about this story of how your history began in doubling in stunts.
Well, I can elaborate on that. When I started, I knew nothing about a stuntman. I didn't know what a stuntman was. And I was working more than construction. I was working every job you could think of. I was loading box cars in Long Island City. I was doing landscaping. I was doing construction work. I was working for a bookmaker. I did a lot of stuff. My history goes back, you name a job, I did it. Anyway, Chuck was only 3 months old. My brother was back there on a personal appearance thing. And my mother was trying to get me away from what I was doing. And what I was doing was working for a bookmaker who my first wife knew. And well, it's a long story there, but I'll give it to you. Her father was partners with the guy that ran Queens. He was all controller of Queens. He was in the family. He liked me. So he gave me a job working for him. He was grooming me to be one of the big guys. And I used to work in the bookie room with the guys taking horse bets. I was learning that. I'm making a lot of money. In 1955, he was giving me $3,000 a week, plus my car, take me to the Copacabana. So I was doing good. In the meantime, I was doing construction work and other jobs that my mother didn't know about, working for him. And my mother was really a great person. My father died, I was 3 years old. My brother was a lot older than me. He was like 17. So he knew my father pretty well. And if he lived, I would never have done what I did. He was a disciplined guy. He was a fighter, a boxer. He was just amazing. But my mother, she never got married. She worked in the dress factory and she took care of her 5 kids and her brothers and sisters. So she finally found out what I was doing and she tried to get me out, which she did. But it took a long time. So my brother went back and he said, why don't you come back out to California? And I finally said, okay, what am I going to do out there? So you can double me. I said, what is that? What is it? You could be a stuntman. What is a stuntman? And he explained it to me. I said, okay. Chuck was only 3 months old. I went out to California, stayed with my brother. he got me in the guild. It was on a 4th of July, Wednesday. I'll never forget it, flying into Los Angeles, fireworks going off. He picked me up at LAX, and he gave me three things to always remember. Always be on time, stay near the camera, and stick around with Victor Paul, who was a guy on the show already, who I made friends with and loved him all my life. He passed away a few years back. So I went out not knowing anything, and the first day on the Untouchables, I got in the guild on a Thursday. Got there on a Wednesday, in the guild Thursday, Screen Actors Guild, at that time the Screen Extras Guild. And the next day I was on the Untouchables, and there I am on a movie set, meeting Bob Stack and all those guys, and I liked it. I liked it so much that I did exactly what he said. I stayed near the camera. I didn't mingle off and play cards like the stuntman. I learned everything you can possibly know about making a movie. Not only stunt work, which I loved. I did so many things in New York that stuntmen don't do. Maybe other people do, but I don't know. Anyway, I learned every department: wardrobe, hair, makeup, dolly pusher. 13 years later, now I was standing in with my brother and doing a stunt once in a while. 13 years later, I was directing Robert Stack in the TV show, just by staying near the camera. So today, I tell these kids like Dennis Matalone, they didn't do what I did. They went out with the big stunts and doing all that shit, which I did as many or more than they did. But I stayed near the camera and I liked it. And that's why I directed Robert Stack, and I directed 60 television shows after that.
Nice. So in 1987, Chuck, your dad, Charles, was the coordinator for the hit action film franchise movies Die Hard 1 and 2, starring Bruce Willis. You were a part of this as well. Can you tell us about your specific stunts in the first film and perhaps the second film, plus working with your dad on a big Hollywood film like this? I'm sure it was memorable.
It was huge for me because, number one, I was 25 years old when I started it. I had been in the business since I was 16. So, working on the show, I had done other films, but this is my first big, at that time, $80 million wasn't much in today's standards, but $80 million back then was a huge budget. So working on that film with all the crew and the people and us having access to the Fox Plaza building in LA for basically the entire 6 months of the shoot at our disposal, we did all kinds of stuff. I played SWAT guys. I got shot. I did driving. My brother and I doubled a guy together because my brother did a shot where he got hit and he does a fall face first through glass, and one of the shards of the candy glass cut his under his eye. So we had the next shot my dad had set up with the cut of the guy's knees getting blown out. So we double teamed this actor. My brother did the head first fall through the glass, and my knees were blown out. So we kind of did a combination of that. But on top of that, there was a scene at the end of the movie where Alan Rickman, who gets shot by Bruce Willis, falls out the window. My dad set it up in 3 different cuts. He basically did a shot where I doubled Alan coming out of a 3rd-story window on stage, where I grab Bonnie Bedelia's wrist and Bruce Willis, and I hang on to her when I had a ratchet through my arm because she couldn't obviously sustain my weight. So as he went back through the window, now I'm hanging on to her, but hanging on through the ratchet, which locked up on me. So my arm dislocated. I think I told you this last time. And, I'm hanging there 3 different takes. My arm's out of the socket. I'm sweating like a hog because I'm basically ready to pass out. So we did that. Then the next cut was my dad set up the shot with Alan Rickman. It's got a lot of notoriety and public attention because they set it up where Alan was going to do a 25-foot backfall into this airbag. Well, my dad had the idea to have him release, instead of on the count that we normally use, 3, 2, 1, go, he released them on 2. So Alan's falling backwards, surprised as hell, and that's the look they got. And then we cut to the exterior shot of Kenny Bates doing the long fall of the descender. It was like 240 feet.
35
so that's how we shot that. It was three different stages of that we put it together.
All right. That was one of the really big films of our time in the 1980s, 88 to be more specific. But this is really a Christmas movie in our household.
It is definitely.
Exactly, I agree.
Yes, so many cool action-packed details and stories behind the camera, and that slow motion high fall scene with the late great Alan Rickman in the thriller Die Hard. Were there windows removed with actress Bonnie Bedelia holding your arms out the window when you stunt doubled Alan, or was this a mock-up in a soundstage to look like the building for the fall?
It was a mock-up on stage that was 3 stories tall. So when I went out the window, it looked identical to the exterior of the building. So when I went out and I had the ratchet for her to be able to hold me, I went out the window. Now I'm holding on to her and I'm kind of dangling there by the ratchet, but it looked like she was holding me until Bruce releases her watch, if you remember, and then Alan falls backward. So that's how we did the cut. But it was all that particular piece of it with me doubling Alan was on stage.
Yes, you did say no visual effects. This was all practical effects and stunt choreography.
Wow.
That's so impressive.
It is.
Oh, but poor Alan Rickman. He was Snape in Harry Potter, by the way.
Oh, of course, yes.
You have the next question?
I do, Lily, absolutely. So, Charlie Sr., I want to ask you this question. I understand you stunt coordinated this, and Chuck, you did the stunts in all of these like stunt shots, almost all of the stunt shots. It's a family thing, but please share your memories of this Bruce Willis film. Also, I believe this was shot mostly in Century City, and who was the director?
John McTiernan was one of the best directors that I've worked with. I mean, a lot of them, Dick Donner, Tony Scott, but John McTiernan, he didn't communicate with the crew a lot, but him and I had great communication. He knew, and when I had the interview with him, and that was at the time when I told you every stuntman in town went for the interview for Die Hard 1 as a coordinator, and I got it. And I think I got it about a couple of reasons. One, certain people put my name in that knew Joel Silver, but I think talking to John, because he made the final decision, when I talked to John, I talked about the actors. I didn't talk about stunts. I knew what I was going to do with that. And he told me exactly what he wanted, when the action was going to start and how the momentum was going to go. And I think he liked that I was worried, talked more about the actors. And also, I was going to say something what Chuck was saying about about Die Hard. Got to remember, it was a big movie and it was all practical. We didn't do anything CGI. It was all practical. And most of the movies I've done, Die Hard 2, Demolition Man, they were all practical. See, a lot of directors are afraid to shoot like that, but I know how to do that to make it safe and make it worthwhile instead of the CGI, which is overdone as far as I'm concerned. CGI has a place in certain movies, but you can't put CGI in a practical movie, a real movie, and use that kind of action. You got to have it practical. And a lot of directors don't know that. Again, Rennie Harlan, the guy that Chuck was mentioning, he's living off Die Hard too. And I don't want to brag about it, but I will. I did 70 days of first and second unit, which means I directed actors, I directed all of the action. I could have directed the whole movie, but he got credit for it, and he's still living off that. And he's, he's I don't know. Some guys get along with that. But anyway.
Okay, let me ask you both. First, Charles Jr., what was it like working with your dad on Die Hards 1 and 2? And would you get any special treatment working with your dad on Die Hard, considering he's the stunt coordinator, or did he go easy on you?
What I remember about it was not only all the action we did for 6 months, myself, my brother, my dad, and he put everything together and we kind of fell in order to do what we had to do. But like I told you, we were shooting at the Fox Plaza building, which was in Century City. And we did amazing sequences with the helicopters flying down Avenue of the Stars and the water hitting from the fountains, hitting the bellies of the ship and going up to the top of the building that Charlie and I were both in as gunners with our cousins flying the helicopters. So we did all that kind of stuff. But what I remember, honestly, believe it or not, was every night we get off work at 5, 6 in the morning, just before the sun was coming up. And at that time, my dad had a Jaguar Escape 12. And I had a Porsche 930 Turbo. We used to get on the 405 freeway and race back to the valley about 140 miles an hour with nobody on the freeway. So that was our nights every night. I got drilled harder than most because he expected more of me. Because you got to realize, when people ask me, when I was 8 years old, I knew I wanted to do stunts. I wanted to follow in his footsteps.
Okay, Charles Sr., what was it like working with your son Chuck, and like some of the memories you shared? Because this was the first really big budget film that you worked on together as a family, along with your two sons, right?
What he's saying is true, but him and Stephen, my two sons, stayed near the camera. Like I told them, besides them watching me and doing all the stuff that I did, they stayed near the camera. So they know what they're doing. I mean, I work with both of them. I work with Chuck on all these big movies. I work with Stephen, with Michael Bay and all. Stephen knows what he's doing, and so does Chuck. And that's why if I get this movie going, Spaghetti Park, with Chuck being the producer and Steve being the stunt coordinator, and from what I know with all these knowledge that I got from every director that I work with and every movie that I've done, we can put together a great film with a story that people are waiting for. It's got a message with a mother and a son. It's got coming of age with young kids in the movie, growing up, Latin dancing, car chases that are real. I mean, I could tell you the car chase in the script that I wrote. Now, I'm not a writer, but I wrote what I know. And that's how it came about. And my wife helped me with all the dramatic scenes because she's a hell of an actress, and we got some dynamic scenes in it. So I'm really anxious to do it if we get this okay and get this thing greenlit by some of these investors that are really interested. It'll be a fun movie, and you'll be there to watch it.
All right, let's talk about this. It's a cool New York to LA story you have in pre-production for a film. It's set to shoot in New York, I understand, with a solid script. Now, I understand you possibly have Marissa Tomei and John Travolta attached to it, to this film called Spaghetti Park. Can you tell us a little bit more about this project?
Ooh.
Chuck has got a good contact with them, with this producer that Chuck knows in New York. So if we get the money, once we're greenlit, when Chuck has the money that we can make offers, then we'll know definitely if they're available, if they like the script.
Yeah,
and I think they will. I mean,
the bottom line, Brian, is that that's our Charlie's wish list, is to get them to play Marissa to play his mother in the script, and John Travolta to play the mob boss that Charlie works for, like we talked about. So as soon as we get the initial $3 million drop into the escrow, then we're able to, with that, put offers out to Marissa and John, then hire potentially, a casting director and a lawyer to go through our paperwork and get all that stuff in place as a preliminary budget of prep. And, we'll prep light throughout the year and then do a hard prep starting January of next year, and then potentially start shooting, hopefully, with the help of God, in the end of March, April next year.
Okay.
The other thing, Brian, what was I going to say? This the other actor that I want, besides John and Marissa, who I think would be terrific, there's a kid that did, my wife looked him up. He did a series called Billy the Kid and some other movies. A guy named Tom Blythe, I think. He's from England, but the guy he would be terrific to play me. He was really, really a good actor.
Young kid,
if I get those three, I'm telling you, we got a good movie. We got a really good movie.
A Captain's Log returns in a moment.
Welcome back to A Captain's Log. I'm Brian Kreutz. I did once stand in and do a pre-stunt for Gregory J. Barnett on the Nickelodeon TV shows Drama Club. Stunts are fun, but it was only a taste vis-a-vis little piece of the action that Charles and Chuck Picerni have done for decades in great details as stunt coordinators and stunt actors, anything stunts, you name it. I'm joined by my host, Lily Fox-Lim, and we're diving right back into our conversation. Lils, I think you have the next question as we talk about Star Trek.
Ooh, okay, let's talk about the original Star Trek series back in the late 1960s. The episode was titled Day of the Dove. Charles, you were a red shirt Enterprise security lieutenant holding a sword, of all things, in the corridor, and here along for listening into the conversation with Scotty and Sulu. You have a very distinct look and a bit of concern on your face, considering the warrior Klingons are fighting you, specifically with swords. Do you remember what you were thinking in these scenes and what you remember about getting direction from director Marvin Chomsky?
I remember Marvin, and I have no idea what I was doing. I know I did a lot of sword work on it, but I didn't think anything of it. If I knew Star Trek was going to be such a hit, I would have remembered it. I can't remember it.
Like I told Brian, he remembers stuff that I didn't even remember that I was in, for Star Trek, because you never think about it after the days, Obviously the Klingon was 5-6 weeks, so that I knew pretty much all about. But the other stuff, I don't remember any of that. Like we talked about Voyagers, and I can't remember some of the
you
days.
work on so many shows that you don't remember them. But television, there was so much that was due. I was doing like 3 shows a day, coordinating 3 shows a week. I was doing so much that you don't look at the one scene that you probably like.
So it was a long time ago, Star Trek: The Original Series. This episode aired in 1968. Charles, what stage did you remember going on to from the Paramount lot? And could you ever imagine that the Star Trek series would be such a huge franchise with Leonard Nimoy, William Shatner, James Doohan, and crew?
I got to tell you the truth, Brian. I don't remember anything about that show.
Okay.
I remember being out on the stage there. So it was stage 7 at Paramount. Thinking nothing of and never thinking it would be such a hit, such a big hit,
Oh, this is a Star Trek family full circle connection, Charles.
Yes.
You worked with Leonard Nimoy on that iconic Star Trek original series set at Paramount. And Chuck, you were directed by Leonard Nimoy in Star Trek 3 and 4. Chuck, you were pretty young coming into Star Trek feature films in 1983. Did you know you were going to be directed by Leonard Nimoy on the film Search for Spock? And did you ask your dad for advice on what he was like as a person on set together?
Not at the time, because like I think I told you in the first interview, when I got that call, I was 21 back then when I did the Klingon. And the guy that was coordinating, Ari Rondell, called me to play, to play one of the Klingons and do this thing. I had no idea, like Charlie said, what that entailed, because I knew nothing really about Star Trek at that time. It was the 3rd installment in the feature film series. I didn't even know Leonard Nimoy was directing until I got there that day. And then we got introduced, and he chose who was playing which Klingon, the helmsman, the this one, the that one, who had dialogue, who didn't. And I got chosen with a few other guys to do some dialogue. Myself, Branscombe Richmond, all that. And we had to learn the Klingon dialogue on that kind of thing. So I didn't really know. I just know that like I told you, I got hired to do the air ram over Kirk's, station there. And I knew that I was going to be the last live guy on the Enterprise before they cut to the CG shot of the ship blowing up. So that was the big deal to me, the stunt. But all the dialogue I did and all the scenes, that all played out in the 5 weeks that we were there. He was great. All I do remember about him, that I can say honestly, he was very mild-mannered, very matter-of-fact about what he wanted, the looks, the dialogue, the whole thing. He was just very easy and simple to work with.
Charles, talk about directing on the hit TV series T.J. Hooker, plus the amazing inside story of you directing an episode of T.J. Hooker and William Shatner asking you for director advice while he left the T.J. Hooker set to go over to direct Star Trek V, the Final Frontier film at Paramount.
Star Trek 5 that Bill did, but it was a good it was a good movie because Bill was a good actor. I met Bill in 1965. I was only in the business a few years. I went back to New York to double an actor named Harry Gardino and coordinate the show called The Reporter, and Bill did a part on it. And he was a good theater actor, stage and all that. So that's how long I know him. But I think that's why Star Trek was good, because Bill was a good actor. As far as him, with T.J. Hooker, yeah, we got along fine. We got along great. He loved the idea that I let him do action stuff, Like one time I had him drive through a garage door, which was no big deal, but he did it. Breakaway door and all that. He loved that kind of stuff. So, we got along good. And he would, like I said, before he did Star Trek, he would come by the camera and I would show him different lenses and move him around and show him how to get shots. But I remember one day we got into a little bit of a beef, the two of us. It was that day I had 14 pages to do, and that's a lot of pages to do. And I had to make a move from one stage to another. So he had to get over to Star Trek and do rehearsals. He said, "You got to get me out of here by 4:30, 5 o'clock." I said, "Okay, Bill, I'll try." So we started shooting, and we had to make the move and all that. And Adrian's med, his partner, the young kid, he was always good. He's a great kid, and I loved him. He was goofing around. He was wasting time. So I said, "Come on, Adrian, stop the bullshit and get in the shot." Because I didn't take any crap from directors, from actors. I said, "Get in the shot. We got to get moving." So Bill said, "Take it easy." I said, "Take it easy. You're the guy that wants to go over on Paramount and direct and rehearse. So you want me to take it easy? You want to get out of here? Get in the shot. I just told him. He didn't say a word. He just got in the shot. But, you know, Bill and I, like I said, we got along great. But he was, you know, people liked him. I thought he was good. And my brother, I know my brother Paul, who I had so much respect for, and he was really a good actor. And he's did some really big films, and he was good. I would use him on every show that I directed. I would have my brother there. So my brother was on the T.J. Hooker one time. And I had a 3-shot with Bill and the captain and my brother. So I got the master and all that, the camera moving around. I got a close-up on Bill. And I said, okay, let's get a close-up on I forget the captain's name, Hurd, John Hurd. I said, get a close-up on John and Paul. He said, well, you don't need that. Bill said to me. I said, why don't I need it? I got a close-up on you. Am I going to cut from the master to your close-up back to the master? I said, I need it. You know, he did things like that. He was a little bit selfish, you know. But good actor. So I got no qualms with Bill. We had a good time. We had fun. We laughed. And that's the main thing in making movies. If you don't have fun and laugh, you want to be Mr. Director, you're not going to have any fun. You want to be part of the gang, part of the crew, you'll have fun. But you still got to have that respect. You know, when I was directing, and I got on the set, and as soon as I start, the crew is very smart. Or any crew you go to, they know they've been around, and they all watch you. They'll watch. They'll stand by and watch you set up the first shot. So I would go in there and I set the shot up, and after that, a couple of shots, they would say, "Okay, boss, what's next?" The minute they say that, "Okay, boss," you know you got them. You know that they have respect for you.
You mentioned the Wilders family as well. So the film Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, that William Shatner directed, Glenn Wilder actually stunt coordinated with Shatner in that film in 1989. Pretty amazing.
Okay. Glenn was one of the best guys I've ever met.
And then Johnny Meier was the double for Shatner in the Star Treks. It was John Meier.
On T.J. Hooker, too.
Yeah. Yeah, Johnny doubled him. I don't know for which ones, but I know for sure Star Trek 3 that I did, and I think 2, and I think 4 as well.
Wow, so John Meier was a stunt double for William Shatner for years in films for Star Trek and T.J. Hooker. That's pretty cool.
That is cool. Yeah, so let's talk about the Penguin. Yes, and working on the 1960s Batman series, Charles.
Paul, who we mentioned before, was the guy I met on The Untouchables. I became very close to him. He doubled Robin. So he would hire me all the time. So besides him and the guy that doubled Batman, I worked on most of the shows because Vic would hire me. And we had more fun on that show, Brian, than you could imagine.
Chuck, you wanted to add more about the context of your dad's working crew and the cast of actors that wanted to be part of the Batman series?
Brian, as you know, that show, all the biggest actors at the time wanted to be on that show for whatever reason, for the campiness or whatever. So they got a chance back then. I wasn't even born, or I was born, but I was too little. You know, they got a chance to work with all those guys, and the stuff they did were predominantly fights and that kind of thing. But they had the opportunity to do a lot of stuff that was, you know, for that time, cutting edge stuff.
Thank you